And we move on now to Near. What do you have for us?
Wow. So I watched what does she know? Shiawase Nakikkon, also known
Nice.
as My Happy Marriage or My Blissful Marriage. That's another one.
Hmm.
This is a Studio Kinema Citrus production.
Oh, okay.
This is a novel original.
Hmm.
Um, and this is a romance, drama, drama. Um,
A
shoujo.
lot of people being
Uh,
very sad and moody, yes.
yes. In terms of staff, what is it? This is backed by like Katakawa and Square Enix, so there's like 8 million producers and shit. Um, as for the director, it's Takehira Kubota. Um, he has done, what has he done? Not a lot. He worked a bit on ID Invaded as a storyboarder, an episode director. He worked on a bit of storyboarding for Doro Hedoro. Um,
Oh, okay.
he directed, what was this? Is this an OVA? Oh, this is a short. He did some short, I guess. Is this the Zuraguma no Gloomy? Um, but other than that, this seems to be, for the most part, his like directorial debut of like main director. Um, other than that, he's worked on some other solid projects. Bubuki Baranki, Ping Pong the Animation, um, Review Starlight. Here and there. Um, but this is his first main directorial role.
Hmm.
Um, other than that, the other staff like script writing. I don't think there's anything too much to write home about. Um, yeah, it seems largely though.
Yeah, it just seems like mainly a mixture of, or like connections from like various other studios like that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna get too into synopsis here. Um,
Mhm.
mostly because at the end of the day, this is Cinderella, right? This is
Yeah.
a sort of period piece, Cinderella, where it's instead of um, being whisked away by a magical fairy, she gets an arranged marriage, and just so happens that the man that she gets arranged to marry is the dream guy. He's the perfect man. He is super cool and super awesome, and he's super strong, and he's super nice, and he's super kind. Um, and that's where like a lot of the pure romance comes into for this. Um, this is like really like lovey-dovey, mushy, like romance. Like this is romance, romance. This is very much like a storybook, fairy tale kind of romance. True
Blushing kind
love.
of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It goes really hard in the romance. And then um, you know, like I said, it's Cinderella. So she comes from a family that treats her like shit. She starts off as effectively she's a servant of the house that she belongs to, right? Like she's born into this, super, um, I guess, wealthy family, and it just so happens that her mother ends up dying, um, and then her father, I guess, remarries, and then the stepmother treats her like shit. And this is a series that just so happens to have a sort of supernatural element to it, um, where there are like magical powers, right? And the main character comes from this fabled bloodline, I guess, that has like mind control powers, but she doesn't have them. Right? Like the main character is uh, allegedly without powers, and because of that, her family treats her like garbage. Basically,
Wait,
calls her
what
worthless.
exactly are these? So are these powers like actually like do they manifest in the story? Because I feel like if they did, it would cause a
Sort
lot of
of. Okay, so
complications in the plot.
yeah, so it's tricky, right? Because like I said, the romance here is like it's pure, everything's good. Like, there is no drama in terms of, the relationship between the main character and the male lead, right? Like they are fucking made for each other, right? Like they're fucking soulmates. And so the
Mhm.
drama here comes from these I guess family politics from these, noble families, and then sort of this bloodline storyline where, the author kind of sets up the main character as, she's treated like dirt. She's sort of this worthless, the family thinks of her as garbage kind of stuff. And then you then have to, I guess the author sort of turns around and goes, well, how do I create drama now where, you know, this character has already been whisked away from this family that treats her like garbage, right? And
Mhm.
views her as worthless. So, how do I keep that family involved within this storyline and also bring other drama into it? And so then you get into this bloodline scenario, right? Where the
Okay.
main character is from this legendary bloodline, um, and regardless of whether she has powers or not, she still has that blood. And if she sires a child, that child could have, these mind powers as well, right? And so she is now viewed as a very powerful sort of bargaining chip that many families wish to obtain, you know, whether she be married into the family or be taken by force, right? And that's where
Mhm.
the powers come in and sort of manifest, right? Because the male lead, um, our white-haired Bishi god, is really fucking powerful, right? Like he is a military commander. He can apparently wield every fucking element. He can shoot
Oh,
fireballs. He can shoot lightning bolts. You know,
nice.
he's super strong, and so
Mhm.
you then have this sort of uh, scheming sort of subplot where all these families are sort of kind of trying to scheme as to how they can either fuck up these two characters' marriage or
Mhm.
kidnap the main character or whatever, and then
Right.
the male lead sort of has to come in and save the day with his cool lightning bolt powers and, have his hair flowing in the wind. Um,
Nice.
I will say this is probably the most shoujo-esque series you can really like. This is really shoujo. Like this is really cliche um, shoujo, and what I mean by that is like I mean, I'm sure everyone here has seen Cinderella, right? Um,
Yes.
right. Cinderella's stepmother and her, stepsisters are like cartoonishly evil, right? Like they're just like they're evil. Um, and you very much have that in this series.
Oh, so
Uh,
there's no like so you know how usually in stories there's like a exposition or a part in one of the episodes, or they even devote an entire episode to one of the villains or one of the people that are fighting against the main character or the main cast, right? And they show why they've become so warped and twisted and
yeah,
stuff
no,
like that.
they're just fucking evil here.
There's nothing like that. They're just like, oh, these are just bad people. Fuck
So
them.
so the most depth you kind of get is with the main character's sister, Kaya. She's this sort of blonde, um, spoiled princess sort of character, and she is also very cartoonishly evil. However, pretty early on, she gets humbled, like fucking hardcore, right?
Mm.
Um, and then she sort of goes into this character arc where, I won't spoil it, but she essentially gets sent off to become like working class, right? And then she sort of has to realize like what she put her sister through. Um, and it's not really like a humanization or a justification of why she behaves the way she does, but it is sort of, adding a bit of depth to that sort of character. Um, but in terms of like, you know, the main characters, like her father and her stepmother, and like, why they treat her like garbage. No, they're simply evil. Like they're just straight up evil. They treat her like dirt. There's literally a scene where, like, like I said, the main character's mother dies, right? And then the stepmother, for like literally no reason, decides to like burn all of like the main character's, you know, I guess, uh,
Belongings?
like yeah, like belongings that belonged to her mother, right? Like they were a reminder of her mother. Um, and when the main character goes to confront the stepmother, um, her parents like lock her in a fucking storeroom, like for no reason. Like literally no reason. Like
Okay.
they're fucking evil, right? So this is very, you know, shoujo Cinderella.
It's almost
Um,
like how you had like Harry Potter Dudley's kind of stuff initially portrayed.
yeah,
Obviously later on J.K. Rowling like tried to make them more humane, but it
yeah,
was just like, hey, fuck you kind of thing.
yeah.
Just as a contrast.
Yeah, sort of. Um, but yeah, so with that in mind, like, this is very, very, very like if you don't like I don't really want to say like unnatural drama because it's like, within the context of the plot and sort of how the world is set up and how the family like politics are sort of set up, it's not entirely unnatural. But it is very soap opera-esque in terms of how quick it comes up. Like the drama in this series happens within like the fucking blink of an eye, right? Like you will have everything being going really, really well. The main character is happy. The male lead is, patting her on the head, and everyone's blushing, and it's all smiles. And then all of a sudden, everything goes wrong, and there's like people are being kidnapped, and you know, uh, lives are at risk, and all
Is
of a
this
sudden,
like one sort of huge how do I describe it? Is this one huge clump of drama with up and down drama all the way through all of the episodes, or is it like how some of or a lot of shoujo series, especially the ones that are say centered around school life, stuff like that, tend to have uh episodes or mini arcs that have build up to tension, and then they have a sort of release set of episodes where what I'm trying to describe is they'll have a start of this mini arc, and let's say it's some sort of childhood friend of the main heroine coming in, and then the childhood friend makes a bunch of ruckus. It's suspected that maybe the childhood friend is in love with the main heroine, and then it's the love triangle right between the boy toy and the childhood friend and the main heroine, and then that builds up, and then suddenly there's a release. It's found out that the childhood friend doesn't actually like her, or the childhood friend gives up on her, and there's this kind of thing for a moment, and then the next drama happens where they have a fight or whatever it is. So it's kind of spaced out like that, or is it kind of one huge clump of family drama into more family drama into ninjas attacking the village, or what's the sort of the structure of this drama?
so it's tricky, right? So there are 10 episodes out right now, right?
Yes.
And for the first I'd say the first 4 episodes, right? It's the first episode is the fucking, Cinderella like setup plot line. Everyone's treating her like garbage. Um, she's super depressed, and life sucks, yada yada yada. Um, but she has this sort of like this one person, right? Like there's this one guy who very clearly, has feelings for her and has expressed, a wish to effectively save her, right? Like take her out of, you know, that house. And
Mm-hmm.
the obvious, you know, um, goal for him is to sort of ask the head of the family, to let him marry her. Right? And at the end of the episode, it's revealed that this guy, um, he ends up getting an arranged marriage with the main character's sister, right? Which is the spoiled princess sort of um, character, and then
Okay.
the main character gets set off with the male lead, which is he sort of has this reputation of not accepting any arranged marriage, right? Like um, he's super cold, and he just ends up not um, like he just sends them away, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so she sort of like the episode sort of ends with like, oh well, you know, I guess I'm leaving everything behind, right? And then the next three episodes after that is like it's like it literally like the mushy gushy lovey-dovey romance after that, right? Where she sort of builds up a bit more confidence. She stops doubting herself. you know she's starting to actually feel for this person, and it's obvious that he feels for her, stuff like that. And then in episode 5, it's like boom, drama, 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 right? And pretty much ever since, it's been nonstop, right? Like it is
So
super
they're not even.
dramatic. Like
When are they getting?
it's
So are there bits and there are there? Is there
yes.
any
So
reprieve or bits and
there
pieces
there
of
is there is
the? Okay.
so there was uh again, I don't really want to spoil it too much because like I think this series is good. I'll just say that straight up. Like I think this series is very good. Um
Mm-hmm.
so I don't really want to spoil it too much. But like there's sort of like the drama drops like hard and fast, right? Where, you know, everything is going good, and then, again, like I said, suddenly somebody's life is in danger, and, the male lead needs to sort of swoop in and save the day, or, they have to sort of do it like a detective thing and figure out like where you're like what's happening, or, who's behind, you know, this sort of uh, political, like family politics plotline kind of stuff. Um, but it usually gets resolved pretty quick, and then afterwards, it sort of goes back to the more romance stuff, right? Whether that
Mm-hmm.
be going out shopping, looking for gifts for each other, right? Or I think one of the more recent arcs was the main character sort of um, interacting with the male lead's sister and sort of training how to be, a more ladylike, posh, elegant person who shows up to, balls or whatever, because these are, this is sort of set up to be a, you know, uh, sort of noble family kind of um, scenario, right, where everybody is sort of, a lot of these, a lot of the characters are sort of, families of high status or whatever, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
which sort of bleeds back into the, you know, legendary bloodline plotline, right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very much like the drama is like this huge fucking spike in tension, and then it goes back down. But they are very fast and quick spikes,
How
and
much
this sort of
focus
more.
is there around? I mean, it might kind of seem obvious and might be a stupid question, but how much focus is there on the drama as it affects the characters directly and how people are trying to screw with them versus there's not a lot of weird statecraft-ish kind of stuff outside of the main character's purview, right? Is sort of what I'm trying to get at. It's pretty much 100%. Oh, the family drama is nasty as it directly pertains to the characters, right? It's
Well,
not. There's not some larger like weird
so
family
so
drama
there
that's always
there
going on.
is a sort of larger like dramatic plot line to it. I haven't
Mhm.
seen it come to fruition yet. It is sort of in the background right now. Um,
Okay.
I'm not too sure how that's going to come to a head as of yet because this is a 12 episode series. Um,
Mhm.
there's 10 out right now. Um, there are definitely like political um, sort of schemings going on because we are talking about very like influential families. There's this sort of you know fabled bloodline thing going on. There's definitely some like grander schemes going on. But in terms of like how it affects the characters, it is sort of um, it is a bit more local, right? Like it's not like the fate of Japan kind of thing, right? It is very much
Right.
like
Right.
you know, like our family politics are sort of getting in the way of like our marriage, basically, right? It
Mhm.
is very much a character focused kind of thing. Um, and like the drama isn't just sort of like a oh like this is annoying kind of thing, right? Like this is a roadblock in terms of furthering the plot. It does affect um characters like outlook and sort of how they are. It does build their character, right? um but yeah, it is very dramatic. Like this is a very dramatic show. Like this is very much like soap opera-esque scenarios. um there are kidnappings going on. They're very much cartoonishly evil, like fucking mustache twirling type archetypes here. Um, so like if you're looking for something very like this isn't really like a period piece, you know what I mean? It looks the part of a period piece. And a lot of times it kind of sounds the part of the period piece where you're talking about, arranged marriages and how they influence family politics and stuff like that.
But it's a little
Um,
bit more just like standard rom-com plus supernatural.
Yeah, like the supernatural stuff isn't like a real focus. Like I said, the supernatural
Mhm.
stuff is sort of introduced as sort of a way to keep this main character who, again, a large amount of her family just views her as like worthless, right? But she still
Mhm.
has to be relevant, right, to this sort of um, continuously upcoming
Right.
drama,
Bigger
right? Because
plot or
if
bigger
you
background setting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you have like a Cinderella-esque story where her family just sees her as dirt and then they send her off to be married and it just so happens she's happily married, why would the family care? Like literally what would the family
Right.
care, right?
Right. Exactly.
Outside of outside of maybe a plot line where the sister gets jealous, right? Because the person she's married to is a hot silver-haired Bishi boy, right? Um, which is something that happens, by the way.
Yeah.
But like outside of something like that, there's really no reason for the family to ever like think about her ever again.
Mhm.
So they introduce this sort of um, bloodline story to keep her relevant as a sort of political bargain chip between these um, families that are obviously vying for more power, more political power, stuff like that. Um, and then you have the male lead's family being very influential and powerful just as a sort of tool to sort of protect that, right? Like protect her, keep the idea that the male lead can come in and save the day without any real you know like legal repercussions, right? If he has to like get into a fight or something, right? Obviously the male lead isn't going to be locked in a fucking dungeon for coming in and saving the main character. um
Right.
but like in terms of like the supernatural stuff, it isn't super relevant. um there's a couple plot lines here and there where it's like, yeah, obviously, um some characters have come in and out of the story with like ideas of becoming stronger, stuff like that. um there are some stuff where it's uh like mystical graves have been unsealed, which have sort of created drama, but
Mhm.
it's not like a real
It's not a focus.
supernatural
Yeah,
series, right?
exactly.
These are sort of tools to continuously bring in a sort of drama that is, you know, sporadic and spontaneous without being um, you know, I'm jealous of you and we're gonna do a love triangle now, right? Like this is very shojo. This is very dramatic. It's very soap opera-y, but it's not cliche. You know what I mean? It's not
hmm
tired. It is fresh, right? Um,
hmm
so while
And you would say it's sort of like the pacing that sort of makes it really unique, eh, or the how it builds up.
yeah, and sort of just the scenarios that they get into,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
The issues that they have to overcome, right? Like you said earlier, right, where it's like in a lot of shoujo series, you'll have, the female main character, the childhood friend will come in and suddenly there's a love
Right.
triangle, right?
Yes.
Or, the two characters, right, the female lead and the male lead will already be in a relationship and suddenly a rival comes in and now there's a love triangle, right? Like these are iconic shoujo drama, right? Where the female lead either has to deal with another female rival or there's a male rival that's, going after the female main character
And then will
and
they? Won't they?
yeah, and it sort of becomes this is she gonna leave the guy she's already with? And it's like, you know, this avoids that entirely, right? There is a
hmm
sort of childhood friend um dynamic, but it there's again, I don't really want to spoil it, but it's like there's a scene where after effectively she has already been proposed to by the male lead and she's pretty much concretely I want to be with this person for the rest of my life, right?
Right.
And this childhood friend sort of comes in after a while and is like, "Hey, remember that day where I said I wanted to be with you forever?" And she's like, "No, I don't." Right? Um right? She basically just shoots him down. She's like, "No,
Yeah.
I don't remember that." Because of in some ways, she probably feels somewhat betrayed because this is the guy that went along with marrying her sister, who fucking
hmm
tormented her, right? Um, and he the childhood friend is like, I get it. I understand, right? It doesn't
hmm
become any sort of pointed drama. He doesn't feel resentful or anything. He's like, I
Right.
understand.
Right.
And afterwards, he goes off and he, becomes and he goes to train, I guess, to sort of
He becomes a monk in a,
become
a monastery.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess he wants to become a better person or whatever. Um,
Right.
and that sort of just plot line, I guess, or character interaction sort of ties itself up, right? It doesn't become this weird you know,
Like 20 chapter long, 50 chapter
yeah,
long, will they, won't they, love
yeah.
triangle kind of thing.
And it is really nice. It's very refreshing. But yeah, it's like I said, it is very much a shojo. Like it is very dramatic. The characters are very a lot of characters are very confrontational and conflict inducing. Um, but the way that sort of drama comes up and gets resolved, and the scenarios that the drama is fresh, right? Like it's unique. It's not
hmm
something that a lot of these sort of very dramatic romance series do. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's very good. I think it's good. The characters are very likable. Um, you know, the characters are also very hateable as well, right? Where the characters that you're not supposed to you don't fucking like them. Like you literally pray for their downfall. And when it comes,
Because
you're
they're just
like,
like pure, like obnoxious. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, and when they do get humbled or when they do get their comeuppance, it's like, yeah, you fucking deserve that, like, um so I would say it's very good story. In terms of audio visuals, like I said, this is a Kinema Citrus series. um
Mhm.
I'd say the strongest point of the audio visuals for this is the color palette. The color palette for this series
Oh,
is
okay.
really, really good. And it shifts very subtly in terms of like what tone the scene sort of wants to present, without being like you almost don't notice it, right? Um, but yeah, the audio visuals themselves, like animation wise, is very good. There's a lot of really subtle, like character acting and sort of body language that a lot of the characters have. A lot of the different characters will, carry themselves differently because they have sort of they view themselves differently from, say, like the main character. Initially, like she always has her head down. She's always apologizing and bowing and stuff like that. Um, Whereas, some of the more pompous and arrogant characters will always sort of have their nose upturned. They'll walk a different way, um, you know. And again, pretty much all of these characters have, flowing like robes and kimonos, and they're all animated very well. Um, and the eyes in this series are really, really pretty. They're very detailed, very shiny. Um,
I'm
you
like,
know,
well, you said that the main like drama and like problems happening start from episode 5-ish onward, right?
yeah.
Um, is there a lot of action and like running around and scenes like that,
Not really.
or is it
No, not
mostly
really.
okay?
There is a
There are
bit of
still like
action here and
fancy
there.
scenes.
Yes, so there's a bit of action, but a lot of it
Hmm.
is sort of like a magic kind of thing, right? Where the character sort of just shoots magic out of their hands, right? So a lot of it is sort of just effects, right? Um, it's not really like, they're not Naruto running around or fighting hand to hand kind of thing. A lot of it is
Hmm.
very like, you know, like some characters will have like a sort of telekinesis power where they throw, rocks or furniture around. Um,
Right, right, right.
or some will have, powers where they shoot fire or, shoot lightning bolts, or, they create ice or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's not like, uh, it's not super dynamic.
It's
It
not
is well,
super
it is
running
well
around. Yeah.
animated though. When
Mhm.
they do that. But yeah.
Okay.
Um, in
All right.
terms of the soundtrack, it's not the most amazing. I mean, it does its job
Hmm.
well, right? Like in emotional scenes, it's a good um, mood setter, I suppose, but it's not super memorable or anything. Um,
Hmm.
and then as for like the voice performance, I think it's really good. Um, the main character is voiced by Ueda Reina, and
Yes. Yes.
she's doing this very, very like soft spoken,
Honest,
like,
honestly, it's like one of the, in my opinion, it's a very good casting
yeah,
for this sort of
definitely.
character.
She's super soft spoken in this, almost like almost a
Whisper.
whisper kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
To the point where like she very much like, they don't go super into like the themes of like trauma or, anything like that. But the way
Hmm.
she sort of voices the main protagonist, like you can very much sort of you can hear sort of the idea that, she's sort of playing a character that doesn't want to be sort of noticed, right? Like she doesn't want any attention really brought
Oh,
to
okay,
her,
okay, okay.
because the only attention that she's ever really received has been negative,
Hmm.
right? Like it's been,
Right,
you
right.
know, either she's been
She's like trying to
insulted or
be invisible.
abused.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
she wants to be
she's very
invisible.
much trying to be the sort of smallest presence in the room. And then sort of as the
Which like is an
series
actual thing that happens to people. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And then sort of as the series goes on, she gets a little bit more confident, and she's still very soft spoken, obviously, right? Because stuff like that follows you. um, for a very long time. But, she gets a little
Mhm.
bit more, outspoken. She starts showing a little bit more emotion in her voice, and it is a really, really, really good performance. Um,
Mhm.
Outside of that, I think some of the more standouts are Sakura Ayane. She's the sister. She's doing this sort of spoiled
Okay.
princess sort of thing,
Nice.
and she does a very good job at being like just absolutely fucking detestable. Like she's
Yeah, she Sakura Ayan also has a very good register for that like general bratty tone in
yeah,
general.
yeah.
So,
But other than that, the others are very solid.
mhm.
Trying to find,
Ueda kind of was like the mother, right, or whatever, and then one of the other, I forget. There was like a couple of others
yeah.
as well.
So
It
there's
was
this
a pretty
character.
solid
There's a
cast.
character named Hana in this series. She's one of
Yes,
the
the
she's one of
maid or
the
whatever.
yeah, the maids.
Hmm.
She's voiced by Mamiko Noto, right? And
Yes. If you
the
guys don't know who Namiko Noto is, you guys should.
yeah, there's a scene. So the sort of backstory is this character Hana is basically one of the servants that took care of the main character, sort of essentially after she got effectively abandoned by her family, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, and so she's kind of she was one of the only, I guess, caring people in the main character's lives. And then after the incident where she gets locked up in the storeroom, this character Hana essentially gets fired, right? And then she's sort
Hmm.
of never heard from again from the main protagonist until years later, where the male lead sort of contacts her and has her sort of talk to the main character as sort of like a confidence boost kind of thing.
Hmm.
And the performance that she gives in that scene, like genuinely like moved me to tears. Like it was really fucking good.
Jesus.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so
this entire cast is like, if you just read the names, they are all first, they're all at least like 5, 7 plus year veterans. And second, like they're all at least like A-listers.
yeah, yeah,
So this is a
and
very
they're definitely
there's a
putting
lot
a
of money in
lot
this
into
cast.
their performances for this series.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
There's even Kwashima Hoko, like that's been a
yeah,
while since I've heard that name. But yeah, Miyake Kenta, stuff like that. Kimura Yohei, Kasayoko. Yeah, a lot of big names here. Um, did we talk about the opening ending yet? Or no?
no,
Uh,
I feel like the OPED is. I mean, I like the OP. I think it's not like super incredible or anything. I feel like the ED
mhm,
is a little bit forgettable. Um, Personally, um, they're pretty chill. They're very um, they're fairly calm OPs in ED, but it's like
mm,
I don't think they're like super spectacular or anything. But they are
mm,
nice for sure. Uh, but yeah.
yeah. Any last words on the series then?
It's good. It's in my opinion, this series is really good. I'm not 100% sure how effectively it's going to wrap up right now.
Mhm.
That sort of is in the air. Um,
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused because, as you said, it's pretty much been full, gas pedal on the drama since episode 5, and there's no like cycle really to land on. Because usually when there's this sort of cycle, it'll usually have a mini arc up until episode 11 or 12, and then that'll be the end of the last cycle ish, so to
yeah,
say, right? But since there's just one big kind of general drama here, we obviously know what happens in the light novels, but uh, we'll we won't know if they want to wrap it up in this season. If they're gonna have a cliffhanger, but then that's sort of gonna be the end of the franchise in general, and then they run off in the sunset, or if they'll have a second season or like whatever. So it'll
yeah.
be a little bit interesting. What's
I'm
going on?
not. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how this will wrap up. Optimally, this gets a second season because I don't really see this with the whole,
Uh huh.
promised bloodline kind of thing. I don't really see this wrapping
Oh
up
yeah.
super like it's not going to be conclusive. You know what I mean? Like there's always going to
Mm-hmm.
be sort of a loose end. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of rating, I'd probably give this like a solid 8.5, maybe a 9, depending on how um, they manage to sort of wrap it up at the end. Uh, in terms of like recommendation for this, I think it's a bit trickier because I wouldn't just wholesale recommend this. Because like I
Mm-hmm.
said, this is very much like this is very shoujo, right?
There's a certain type brand of people that like this sort of, uh,
Yeah,
like they go with
because
through with this sort of brand, yeah,
because
or
some people
series.
are going to watch this. Some people are going to watch episode 1 of this and see how like comically just fucking mean some of these characters are, and they're going to scoff at it and they're going to drop it, right? And they're not going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
this is
if I
important.
think if you have a bit more experience with maybe a shoujo series, um, you know, maybe you can sort of suspend your disbelief and maybe not necessarily expect like a super realistic, you know, um, human sort of character drama that's like super, down to earth kind of thing. Like this is a very
It's not like a villain will get 3 episodes detailing about how they were wrong before, and that's
yeah,
warped their perspective.
like
No, it's just like bad people
yeah,
versus
some
good
of these people are
people. Yeah.
just fucking evil, right? Some of these people are just awful people. They have no
Right.
heart.
Yeah.
And that's the long and short of it, right?
Right.
And if that's something that you can't sort of just be along for the ride for, or you need sort of more realistic sort of depictions
You
of,
need the
and
gray morals.
yeah, you
Yeah.
need your muddied, I guess, motives or whatever for why characters are behaving the way they do,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you probably won't like this as much. But if you're
Mhm.
if you're fine with just, sometimes people are fucking bad people, right? Um,
Yeah.
then I think you'll like. I think this is a really good show. Um,
Mhm.
I really do like the way that a lot of the drama is sort of presented. I think it's fast. It's um, it concludes quickly. You know, it is very. Sometimes you will be like, the drama will be happening, and you'll be like, I don't like this, right? Like I don't like this, right? But that's the point. Like
Yeah.
you're not supposed to, you know, be seeing, bad things happening to characters you like and be like, oh, I understand why everyone is doing the things they're doing here. Sometimes you
Right.
just
Right.
want to be
Right. Right.
like, this shouldn't be
Oh
happening.
man. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wish the main character would come in and just beat all these dudes' asses, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that is sort of what happened, right?
Yeah.
It is fairly cathartic in that, but I think this is really good. Um, uh, you
Hmm.
know, I wouldn't wholesale recommend it, but if it is something you're sort of interested in, I would definitely say give it a shot. It
Yeah.
is on Netflix right now, so it is
Oh,
fairly.
did they batch release the episodes or what happened, or
I
was it
think they're
like a
doing
weekly
it
kind of thing?
weekly, which
Okay.
is a bit out of the norm, I think, for Netflix. But
Yeah,
um,
usually Netflix releases it in batches, at least like 4 episodes at a time, if not
yeah,
like six, or even like they sometimes. Yeah, I think six is the max. Although, yeah, I think six or so is the max, unless they are doing like a full 24, however many like episode thing, and then they like sometimes even release like eight or whatever it is. But I think
yeah.
six is usually 4 to 6 is usually cap. Yeah,
But yeah,
but
I do really like this show. So
yeah, I have it on my backlog for this season too, and I really wanted to check it out. But I'm glad that you did help review it, because I want to just make sure that I wasn't walking into some really stupid crap. So, do you have a mouse score for us?
yeah, like I said, 8.5, maybe a 9, depending on how it wraps up. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, I do think of this pretty highly. I think it has potential to be probably best of the season. Um,
mm.
I don't know about anime of the year. We'll see how it you know
But
we'll
it could
see how
be
it
one of
goes,
the
right?
better, like, not slice of life, but one of the better romance
Definitely, yeah,
series of
yeah.
the year. All right. Well, then, thank you very much, Nier, for helping to review My Happy Marriage. Uh, I think again, yeah, as you said, it was actually apparently it was a shosetsu. It was an okay. It was a web novel
Oh,
originally
really?
apparently, and then it became a
Like a full novel?
yeah, it became full light novel, published light novel, and then obviously now it's an anime adaptation. I think there's even a live action, although I'm not sure if that
I
happened
believe so,
before or
yes.
after. Okay,
I think the live action came out a little bit before this, but yeah,
okay,
I
but
I
it was like a dual guns akimbo kind
yeah,
of
it
like all
seemed to
hands
be
on deck
sort of a
kind of.
concerted effort to sort of release
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
live action and the
There's
anime
been a
pretty
lot
close
of
to each
those
other.
recently.
Yeah.
Psalm 100 being one of them, but obviously there were like a one or two before this as well. But yeah, there's more and more of those coming on. But yeah, Watashi no Shiwase na Kikkon, novel original, again done by Kinema Citrus. If you do like more kind of pure romance, kind of you want to kind of sit down and be comforted by those blushing, as well as the drama that ensues, please do check this out.